I'm asking you, and maybe you should think before you answer. Would you prefer a 383 or a 360? The 383, born in 1959, had a little bit of a run all the way to 1971, 71 being a pivotal year, because that's when our other engine was born, the 360, in 1971. It's the only year that we have side-by-side comparison in gross horsepower. Other than that, everything on the 383 is gross, and the 360 going forward was net. Big difference. So if we try to remove bias and actually look at facts and functions, which is actually right or right for you? Which do you prefer? I'd love to hear why. Is it the 383 big block? Or is it the 360 small block? The 383, purposed, aimed at the competition, was to be a mule motor, to offer, a little bit more horsepower, torque, to move the bigger cars, and to get it in the field where it needed to be. Many consider it a taxi cab motor, even though there was a high performance, actually a few different high performance versions of this engine, including 2 4-barrels, but the run-of-the-mill 383 was built as many said, the family sedan or the taxi cab motor, and it did a lot of grunt work in those cars and in Dodge pickup trucks. The 360, kind of with the same purpose, came out in 1971 without a high performance version and placed in the C bodies for kind of like that same mule type of work. And the 360 is an addition to the LA series, which Dodge, Mother Mopar, was having fantastic success with durability, performance, fuel economy. So why not the 360? The 360 was received by the small block guys, the 340 guys namely, about as well as the big block guys looked at the taxi cab motor 383. Well, now, in the year of 2024, we've seen great success with the 360 small block on the street, on the strip, stroker kits for it, aftermarket support is woo! And the same can be said with the 383, with a 440 source supporting it, and it's well documented, some of the builds with that. So my question to you is, why would you pick a 383 big block or the 360 LA? Just to cover a quick fact, is in 1971 when the 383 ended its production and the 360 began its production, the 360 2-barrel, that's all it was available, was rated at 255 gross horsepower and 360 foot-pounds of torque. The 383 2-barrel was rated at 275 horsepower, so 20 more, and 425 foot-pounds of torque, which is... Whoa. It was the Magnum that had 425 foot-pounds of torque. The 2-barrel had 375 foot-pounds of torque. My bad. A considerable 65 foot-pounds of torque. Let's make it 15 foot-pounds of torque. So, sounds like at that point the 383 certainly had the edge on the 360. However, I have had the privilege of driving or being in C bodies like a Newport with a 383 2-barrel and like Monocles with 360 2-barrels. And I can tell you, by driving and by the seat of the pants, I cannot tell which engine is it. just by driving, starting it up, quiet running C-body, and take it down the road. I don't know if it's a 383 or a 360. B-body guys almost always want the big block. Distributors gotta be in front. I don't care if it's a 73 Satellite or a 69 Charger. That distributor's gotta be in the front. I understand. But most A-body guys, if they're gonna put a big block in, if they're gonna go 383, they'll just say, not that much of a difference, hardly anything. Save the weight and the room and give me a 360. So, if they want big block, they want big cubes. So I'm interested in when and why you have a preference. Is it always 383? Regardless, it's a 383 for me, or are you the 360 guy? No, I don't want the taxi cab motor. Give me the 360, which makes a good work truck van motor. To tell the truth, neither one of them, the 360 or 383, were known for fuel mileage. Both engines can grow in cubic inches. This 383 can easily go to a 496 cubic inch. Well, a 360 can easily go over 408 cubic inches. So with aftermarket support for both engines fairly close in cubic inches, obviously, the more closer to stock, the more comparable the numbers are. Obviously, if you want to go to max race builds, there's more potential, it appears, with a 383 to get really big, 500 cubes or more. And I think if you look at it, throw away the bias, I'm big block or I'm small block. Just think about it. There's a lot of things to think about. I'm just going to give you a couple things to think about, and I don't want me, the host, to have any persuasion in this. But for me, I'm not really biased toward any of them. I do want to say this. It depends on the car. It depends on what I'm working with. For instance, if it's an A-body, hands down, your choices of headers and your fitment and getting the small block in there is hands down better than any big block. Also, the option to run a 904. I love 904s in my A-bodies. A 904 and an A-body, 904s can be built to handle serious horsepower. And it's smaller, it's lighter, more room around the headers, all of that in an A-body. So you can run a 904 behind a big block, but you got to buy a very expensive adapter. So, you know, when you look at the small block, the 360 with a 904 behind it in an A-body, it might be the smart choice if you're going to run headers and all that. In a B-body or a C-body or a pickup truck, maybe the 383 is definitely a better choice. Maybe it offers a lot more opportunity, you know, for higher flowing heads, aftermarket, whatever, you know. So I'm not trying to persuade. I'm just trying to open up the idea of thought and not just biased, but actual facts and functions. Aftermarket supports both pretty well. Obviously, if you want a big block, a 383, you're going to be looking pre-71, 71 or before. There's plenty of them around. The marketplaces, they're not expensive. People still want a 400 to grow or a 440 other than the 383. So there's still plenty around and they're cheap. So let me know your thoughts. And please, no, well, I'd take a 400. I want the 340. Yeah, let's talk Gen 3 Hemis too. No, let's keep it to 383 and 360. If that's the only two choices you have, what would you prefer? Which one and why? I'm curious, or I wouldn't ask the question.